If your clutch cable free play is out of whack, it can make your bike difficult to ride and can even damage your clutch plates. Good thing then that adjusting it is so easy. And today in RevZilla, I'll show you how to do it. Let's open up the shop manual. If you're having cable slack deja vu, that's because we recently did a video on throttle cable slack, but today we're talking about clutch cable slack, which frankly is more important because if it's out of adjustment, it can actually damage your clutch. So let's take a look. Okay, so we're in the shop and today we are going to be talking about clutch cable free play. Some people call it tension, some people call it slack, some people call it slop. Whatever word they use to describe it, what we are referring to is the free movement of the clutch lever before the cable meets the resistance of the clutch springs down in the engine. And it is important to have the right amount of play for clutch function, for clutch feel, and for longevity. And it's something that you need to adjust periodically in order to account for wear at the clutch plates. If you don't have enough clutch cable free play, then the clutch won't be fully pressed together when you release the lever, and that can cause issues such as clutch slip when you're accelerating. And that is a bad thing because your clutch plates will glaze and then you'll have to replace them. So obviously a bummer. On the other hand, if you've got too much clutch cable free play, like I've set it up with here, then the clutch might not fully disengage when you pull the lever in. So that means the bike might want to creep forward when it's in gear at a stop, like at a stoplight, and it will definitely make the bike harder to shift gears once you're underway. If it's something that can be adjusted or something that can wear out, then of course there's going to be a factory spec. And for clutch cable free play, that is typically measured at the end of the lever. So you would take your ruler or your tape measure, or in this case, I've got a square. I like this one because it's metric, and you would place it against the grip, and then you would reference where the lever is at full extension. Looks like it's at about 110 millimeters, and then you would pull it in, and it's at 90. So that delta, 20 millimeters, is our clutch cable free play. And that's pretty much within the average spec that I've seen. It's usually between 10 and 20 millimeters, but it varies from bike to bike. So it is incredibly important that you reference your service manual or your workshop manual to find the specific number for your model. But what if you've installed aftermarket levers that are shorter? What if you've busted the tip off of this? Then that whole measurement at the end of the lever kind of goes out the window, right? So I have another technique I want to show you that I feel is more reliable, even if you do have aftermarket parts on your bike. However, for that, I'm going to need a different bike. Okay, different bike. We got this beautiful little XT225 here that just happens to have aftermarket levers, and I will use this to show you my preferred measuring technique. Instead of measuring at the end of the lever here, which wouldn't particularly work in this scenario because we have an aftermarket short lever, what I prefer to do is measure the gap between the back of the lever and the perch, because this is going to remain consistent regardless of what sort of accessory you have bolted on. And similar to how there's kind of a range, a 10 to 20 millimeter range for the end of the lever, there's also a ballpark for this gap here, and it's 2 to 4 millimeters. But again, important to check your owner's manual for the specific number for your bike. Of course, you can use a tape measure or a ruler to measure that 2 to 4 millimeters, but what I like to do is just reach in my pocket and pull out some coins. The US nickel is 2 millimeters thick, so if you stack two of them, you got 4. It just so happens that the €1 coin, also about 2 millimeters, the 5 rupees coin, similarly about 2 millimeters. So the point is, you've got lots of options to use for a feeler gauge. And with your 2 coins, all you got to do is move it to the end of the free play and try and slide them in. And these just barely fit, so we've got a little less than 4 millimeters. Basically, if you're not able to fit one in, you need more slack. If you've got a ton of room beyond 2 coins, you need to take some of that slack out. You need to adjust it. And now, I'll show you how. To adjust the cable free play, you've got 2 options. The first and most convenient is right here at the lever. There's an adjuster. All you got to do is crack the lock nut free, and then if you spin the adjuster in, it will increase the slack. If you back it off, it will decrease the slack. So you've got, I don't know, about a ½ inch of adjustment there. And if for whatever reason you can't achieve the right amount of slack because this thing's backed too far out, or if it's hanging on by just a couple of threads, then you're going to need to go to the opposite end of the cable and make a major adjustment down there. But before you do, spin this all the way back in, and then we're going to go around to the other side of the bike. We're going to follow the cable down to the engine where, look, there's another adjuster. Lo and behold. So you just crack that 10 millimeter free, spin some slack out using this barrel adjuster here, and then tighten that and go back to the handlebar. And then you've got the full range of adjustment again to fine tune the reach. So set it where you want it. Turn the lock nut back snug so everything's dialed. Put your little dust cover back on and you're all set. A couple more things I want to talk about before we wrap things up. And the first is adjusting the clutch cable free play to alter the lever reach or the engagement point of the clutch. Now, maintaining the spec is obviously very important, but you do have some wiggle room to change the slack in order to make the clutch action suit your preferences or your hand size. What's important is that you ensure that the clutch still fully engages when you release the lever and still fully disengages when you pull it in. But so long as everything is working as it should be, again, you've got a little bit of wiggle room to fine tune things to suit your preferences. The second thing I want to talk about has to do with maintenance, and that is to occasionally clean and lube the pivot. Just take that bolt out, wipe it down, put a little grease on it, put it back, and also feed some oil down the cable to keep things moving smoothly. If you do that, and if you maintain your clutch cable slack, and if you don't abuse your clutch with drag race starts or wheelies, then you can expect it to last 20,000 miles or more.